What is the next manufacturer to get a focus after everyone frees up from the Polaris?
We're still on RSI, but we're also pushing on to larger MISC ships and Drake ships.
What's going on, guys, and welcome into another video. And I want to just take this opportunity to touch on something that maybe people missed on during IAE. The question was asked, like, what manufacturers are you going to go on to next after you finish RSI? And one of the manufacturers they said was they're going to work on the bigger MISC ships. Now, you could take that any way that you want, but the way that I'm going to interpret that is that they're going to be actively start working on the MISC Odyssey. Now, when that ship actually comes out, that'll be left to a lot of speculation. But I do feel that the MISC Odyssey is one of the best all-around multi-crew exploration ships that is currently in concept, and it offers players a lot of flexibility and what it can actually do, from refining quantanium that you can directly put into your tanks, and you can do the same thing with hydrogen fuel, to its hangar, to its garage. This ship right here is one of the best all-arounders in the game. And I know, before I compared this ship to the Carrack, and maybe that was an unfair comparison because they have very different roles, but I do think from a gameplay perspective, they are both kind of at the top of the exploration range, and you can really go one or two ways with your exploration. You could become, someone that wants to make charts and do different things and find wormholes and do that kind of gameplay. Or you could be the type of explorer that wants to just be out in the verse and not really worry about that, but have the ability to have that kind of extended range and that extended kind of gameplay without having to necessarily go to a place to refuel and things like that. If you can just do everything on board, then that just makes it a lot easier, right? So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to take a look at the Q&A from 2021. And, as I've been doing with some of these older ships that have been in concept, just take another look at their Q&As and see, okay, what's going to change, what's going to stay the same, and, what could be added additionally to make these ships, really, really good. So with that being said, let's hop back over here into the Q&A. What materials can the Odyssey refine, and does refined materials go straight into the fuel tanks or into the cargo bay? The Odyssey can refine quantanium and hydrogen into fuel. The refinery solely exists to extend the ship's range, so refined fuels go straight into the fuel tanks rather than the cargo bay. So that's very good. So like I said, you can refine and keep your range extended. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to actually do that, if that function will actually work. It should, because you can, the mining and refining things actually kind of work already in game. Well, not in ships, but at stations. But it'll be interesting to see how this kind of stacks up with, the refinery with the Arastra. If the Arastra will actually come out before this one, maybe that would be another good comparison. But again, those ships kind of have a little bit different roles. Is the Odyssey able to refine materials from other ships, such as the bags from a prospector? It is not planned at this point. There's no way to feed the onboard refinery other than the Odyssey's own mining arm. So that makes that makes a little bit of sense. In comparison to the Carrack, does the Odyssey have the capacity to conduct jump point mapping and scanning? The Odyssey does not have the ability to scan map jump points to the same extent as the Carrack, which remains our best current ship for that particular role. In general, all ships will be able to detect jump points, though the Carrack is simply better at doing it and from much greater ranges. So yeah, the Carrack is going to be an entirely different beast, and they've made a lot of good changes to the Carrack in the latest 4.0 branch update, but the Carrack still needs a little bit more love. I feel like the Carrack is very defenseless. We could bring our little Carrack up here on the screen. We could bring our boy out here. We got Anvil right here. The Carrack. Right, we can bring our Carrack out here since, what I'm saying. But yeah, I still think the Carrack is a little bit defenseless. in terms of trying to use this ship in power to be effective, because it doesn't have any PDCs. You know, I think ships of this size, like these big 100-meter ships, they need PDCs, or else people are just going to come in pyro and just torp you and end your exploration, you know, kind of right away. But again, this is for mapping the stars. This is just for out, you know, being out exploring, doing different things out in the verse. What specialized sensors / scanners, if any, does the Odyssey have? I don't see any dedicated scanning / mapping rooms or equipment. What tools does it give its crew for exploration and making discoveries? There are no dedicated rooms or specialized equipment as default, but that doesn't mean the Odyssey is incapable of performing these functions. A lot of the future exploration gameplay mechanics will be driven from stations using MFDs, so the lack of dedicated rooms doesn't stop the activity from happening. However, ships that have dedicated rooms for specific features will have buffs to their abilities as a result. If you want to improve the scanning functionality of the Odyssey, there are multiple ships that can excel in that role and that fit in the hangar, such as the Anvil, F7CR Hornet, and Terrabin. All right, so the hangar is actually kind of big. It's a little big hangar, as I would like to say. We got a nice view of the engineering things. These might be the fuel tanks. What is the biggest difference between the Odyssey and the Carrack? The biggest difference is the Carrack specializations in various areas, such as jump point, scanning / mapping, onboard drones, and repair facilities, which it doesn't currently have, and I don't know when it will have those things. So, and it's 3 modular cargo bays that can be outfitted in the future for various purposes beyond cargo. The Odyssey, however, favors a more generalized approach with flexibility to do a lot of separate roles depending on how you equip it with its onboard ships, ground vehicles, and supplies. So I do think that gives, you know, the Odyssey a little bit more of an advantage in terms of like you having an exploration ship, because unless you're actively trying to find and map out the different alternate wormholes, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't see any of that stuff coming into the game until like way after 1.0 is out, and they have multiple star systems, in which you would probably need if you're less than lawless, or if you're lawless, not less than lawless, doesn't make any sense. But if you're on the lawless side of the game, where you would probably need to use those alternate jump points to get in and out of systems, that is the only way that I would find the Carrack actually more useful. But if, you know, most people that are going to be using the Odyssey, I think, are more or less going to be on the lawful side. So that type of gameplay for people who probably would want to own this ship is not really going to be, in my opinion, a big issue. So needing to do stuff like that isn't going to be within the scope of people that are maybe looking for a ship like this, you know. And for people who own Carracks, you know, selling that jump point data, you know, eventually in, you know, 5-6 years when 1.0 comes out, to people who are on the lawless side, who need those alternate routes to get out of systems. And, you know, that's really when the Carrack's value in its gameplay is going to really be felt. Can the Odyssey refuel other ships, or is it limited to the vehicles in its hangar? The Odyssey can only refuel ships landed in its hangar via a foot/manual refueling. So this part right here, I can honestly see them not doing, because not because the manual refueling would be necessarily not a thing that you would want to do, but just because like how the game actually works. Like currently right now, the only manual refueling ship in the game is the Starfarers, and those don't really work that well. So I think if they will put it in the game, it would be kind of like you would have to go and do it through your mobiGlas basically, but you would have to go to the manual part of your mobiGlas and then, you know, take your fuel in and things like that, which in my opinion kind of makes this, you know, a really good kind of like pocket carrier. If you want to take like a bunch of Furies with you somewhere, you can manually refuel those. If you want to take like a Hornet or something with you, you can refuel those too. So that's pretty good. How can the mail slot cockpit have excellent visibility? The mail slot is actually a quite large opening and provides significant panoramic views for everyone on the bridge. So we're talking about this right here, and if it's anything like the Star Lancer, the visibility isn't that bad. And again, this isn't a combat ship, so you're not going to need like a bunch of extra visibility, because that's not this ship's role. I mean, it does have a lot of weaponry on it. It does have like these size 5s up here. It does have, I think, another one down here. And who knows, it could potentially get upgunned. We saw the Polaris get upgunned as well. And so, you know, I wouldn't worry about that too much. And, you know, the pilot does have an array, you know, just have like a bunch of missiles on it as well. You know, I did cover this ship, you know, a little while ago. So if you haven't seen it already, my Carrack versus Odyssey video, go check that one out for your boy. Which ships will fit in the hangar? Can you please provide us with some examples of the XS ships? An XS hangar, which I think means extra small, is generally refers to what the community calls small ships. The non-exhaustive list of ships includes Avenger, Eclipse. The Eclipse can fit. The Eclipse is not small. This Eclipse is wide at its beam, right? So that's a pretty wide ship. So that to me is like a little bit better than extra small. That tells me that this can probably, not a small ship, at least in terms of its width. It's actually not that long, pause, but it's wide. It's a wide ship. Gladiator, Saber, Arrow, Gladiator, Hawk, Hornet, Hurricane, Terrapin, Banu Defender. The Banu Defender is not a small ship either. Again, even with this ship landed in its landing configuration, that's not a small ship. I'm pointing out the ones that are not exactly like small, because this is like a 2-person ship that can fit inside of here. That's crazy. Defender, Mustang, Buccaneer, Herald, Prospector can fit inside. That's crazy. Prospector is a smaller ship, but it ain't that small. You know, it's a 24-meter ship. I mean, you got some space in here, man. 24-meter, 100 series, 300 series, Aurora, and the Blade. Ships such as the Vanguard, Cutlass, Freelancer, Reliant, and Cartual are too big, as they are the next size up. What are the rings that you can see people standing in the background of this shot? Is it some type of Xeon graph lift? The Odyssey leveraged a lot of Xeon tech in its construction, and the image below shows the main personnel lift. The top hangar also uses Xeon tech to fold the roof door into a much smaller footprint than typically would be possible. Do the size 4 shields on this large ship mean that a new component size category between large and capital ships was added? Capital components are the same as size 4 components. We have size 5s in game, and the terms are often interchanged. Size 0, size 1 is small, size medium is size 2, large size 3, capital size 4. Does it come with some type of ground vehicle and snub like the Carrack? The standalone Odyssey comes with no included ships or ground vehicles, allowing you to customize your fleet as you wish. How much space is there for ground vehicles? Could you fit a Spartan or multiple Cyclones? The ground vehicle area in the Odyssey is quite spacious and designed to carry the size of an Ursa rover. And it shares an overall room with cargo. The two are separated, so carrying a maximum amount of cargo does not impede the vehicle area. This means you can also sacrifice cargo space for additional vehicles. It is not intended at this point to carry vehicles the size of the Nova, Ballista, or Spartan, although more enterprising players may find a way to squeeze one in. So I wonder how the rooms are going to be separated. If there's going to be like a wall in between the cargo area and the garage. That's what it's probably going to depend on. If there's not, you could probably put another big vehicle in the back. I would assume its cargo area is going to be something similar to like what we see like on the Star Lancer, how you have the garage that comes in the back, and then you have like that door that goes through into like some type of a cargo area. If it's like that, I don't see you being able to get a vehicle in there, especially if there's a door in the way. But if there's no door and it's just open, then, you know, Maybe. The brochure shows crew quarters, but does the captain have their own room/facilities? Being a non-military design, unlike the character, isn't a dedicated captain's quarters. However, every crew member has their own quarters, so it's up to the captain to decide which room they like best. Not that really of a big deal on a ship like this. But yeah, I do think the Odyssey is an interesting ship. It's one of those ones that, you know, I would like to add to my fleet one day, just to do some of the less combat role, you know. Although, like, I do think this ship would be okay in combat. I mean, you got size 5 weapons up here on your turrets. So you have some firepower. I mean, 4 size 5 is nothing to sneeze at. And you have an array of missiles anyway. But, you know, this is probably going to be one of the ships that's going to come out closer to the time of 1.0. You know, if and when, you know, I'm not saying, guys, listen, I'm not saying that everything that Star Citizen or CIG is going to put out is going to work, you know, as intended or the way that we want it to work. What I'm saying here is if and when exploration gameplay comes out and we have multiple star systems to go to and you can just stay out in space, I do think ships like this are better, you know, because for me, I'm not the type of player that wants to like go out and like build space stations and do all that. For me, it's a space game. So the point for me of the game is to constantly be out in space and go into different systems and doing different things. Like if I'm building a base in a space station in one location, you know, you have to do a lot of upkeep on that, right? So I would prefer to fly ships that keep me on the go. And this is one of those ships that will for sure keep you on the go and keep you in a place of, you know, constantly, you know, doing the thing that you're supposed to do in space games, which is explore. Now, that's not to say that you can't build a base and export at the same time. It's just that if you build a base, you know, you have responsibilities to protect it. Whereas if you're just on a ship, your only responsibility is to protect your ship. So that's why I think like ships like this and ships like, let me bring her out because I've already talked about her in a previous video. And ships like this, like the Kraken, are going to be, in my opinion, like quite crucial ships for future gameplay for the players that want to not be tied down to like one location, that want to be able to take a bunch or a few ships with them. You know, you could put a few different types of ships in here as well and be able to go out in the verse and touch multiple gameplay loops without having to necessarily worry about, you know, the upkeep of a base, because all you're trying to do is really just upkeep your big multi-crew ship right here. And that's going to be that's going to be all for this one, guys. Let me know if you picked up an Odyssey during IAE, and let me know what you think about the Odyssey and the future of exploration gameplay down in the comments. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.